So I must confess that last Saturday, my wife and I were shopping at Jordan Creek Mall. Now, don't judge me. I know I'm a great procrastinator. I've come over the years to accept that about myself, not to be ashamed of it. But Teresa and I were at the mall with thousands of other great procrastinators as well. And it was, I must confess, pretty crazy, people going to and fro and hustling back and forth. And my wife and I have a pattern when we go shopping. She's kind of the general, the scout, who goes off, and as she does, she went into the store. And I'm out in the mall carrying the packages. See, my deal in this is I'm the pack mule, is how this works. So there I am standing in the middle of the mall, all holding these packages, thinking to myself, I'm too old for this. And I spot, as if a miracle, this bench that I could sit, just within reach, I can go and sit down on, and I do sit down. And it is crazy, people running to and fro. I mean, hundreds of folks going back and forth, and it was just overwhelming. And I'll admit, I was being a little bit of a Grinch, right? But then I noticed this mother, but most especially this little girl who was holding her mother's hand. She had to be about 6 or 7 years old. And the reason I noticed her was that she was looking at me. I thought, well, maybe she's confusing me for her grandfather, or I do bear some resemblance to Santa Claus a little bit, white beard, heavy set, right? So, but she was giving me this beautiful smile. And I remember that it seemed that time stopped a little bit. And this smile was filled with such joy. And as she was walking by, she kind of waved at me and then was swallowed up in the crowd. It was such a small thing in the midst of the busyness and bigness of Christmas. You know, it really was. A tiny thing. It wasn't some great burning bush. It wasn't some profound insight. But it was the joy of a small child's smile that made me kind of pause, made kind of time stop, and in a way, made God very real for me. In a moment, God was incarnated in the smile of a 6-year-old girl. Again, a small thing, no great rapturous understanding of God, just that moment of connection, of joy, unearned and powerful. And I'll be honest, it made Christmas for me that day. Now, we tend to think of Christmas as, and it is a big, beautiful holiday. It is a big, beautiful thing to celebrate and to hold up. It is an amazing story. Stories we hear on Christmas Eve, stories we're very familiar with, the songs we sing, and the communion we share in the candlelight. It is big and beautiful, but sometimes, you know, familiarity with that story that we hear every year may not help us really understand the scandal that's really underneath that story. The ramifications of that story. And it is that the creator of the cosmos, the Lord of all, the ineffable, the indescribable, the source of all things, becomes incarnated in a tiny baby in a dirty manger, in a dirty stall in a manger in a small backwater town far from empire and power. that the God of the universe in this story becomes present and manifest in this very surprising and mundane way. And the bigness of God is captured in the tiniest of things. And you know, that to me is what Christmas means. It's not some great philosophical debate. It's not some great theological affirmation. It is a story of how the God of the universe, the creator of all things, shows up in the tiniest and smallest of things, in the mundane and in the surprising. And I think that's important for me to remember in the season of Christmas this year, especially after the past couple of years we've had, right? That in the darkness, sometimes it's easy to lose sight. The truth is, God is made manifest in the tiniest of things. In the smile of a child, in the choice of a person wrestling with addiction to that day not drink. Shows up in the tiniest of things, kind of interrupts our lives. I know for Dan and Hannah, God is made manifest in a baby that they're holding. And sometimes that's what we got to remember in Christmas. It's the story, yes, and the truth that God loved us enough to be vulnerable in a baby, that God is this light in the darkness that might seem to overcome it so easily, yet it's that tiny light that shines that makes God real for us, that manifests God in our lives. So I hope this Christmas you look for those smiles, you look for that light, because it can give you hope. To God be the glory this day and forevermore. Amen.